The man wore a collar around his neck. He was kept like a hunting dog. Every time the collar was removed, Danny's eyes changed. He charged forward like a fierce dog, knocking down all enemies, with no trace of humanity. He was like a pain-ignorant beast, even able to dodge bullets at close range. His boss was a moneylender. When someone refused to repay debts, Danny became his debt-collecting machine. As a reward, he would get a strip of meat. When they returned to the basement, they found Danny was injured. The boss's subordinate threw a roll of gauze, told him to treat the wound himself, and then ignored him. An iron cage was Danny's home. After happily finishing his canned food, he started practicing with the punching bag. Under Danny's heavy punches, the bag was torn open. He caught the sand with apology, then opened a book. When he saw the picture of a piano, he froze completely. Blood dripped down his forehead. He turned to look at the gauze nearby, but instead of bandaging himself, he used it to repair the punching bag. As Danny's fame spread, the boss's debt collecting process became simpler. Just by removing his collar, even without Danny attacking, debtors would repay obediently. But on this day, they met a tough guy. He knew Danny well. He would only attack once the collar was removed. So before the moneylender could take off the collar, he launched an attack. The boss and his men were badly beaten, while Danny stood aside watching everything. At this moment, the boss struggled free, quickly removed his collar. Danny's eyes changed instantly. He rushed into the crowd, attacking those attackers. In the blink of an eye, he took down all enemies. The boss successfully collected a large sum of money. They went to collect debts elsewhere. This time, they came to an antique shop. The boss told him to wait outside for orders. While waiting, a piano caught his attention. Danny walked forward slowly, pressed a key, listening to the melodious piano sound. He seemed to be startled. At that moment, a blind piano tuner walked in. He greeted Danny warmly, let him sit in front of the piano, and taught him how to play. Danny, lost in the music, suddenly remembered something. He rushed into the warehouse. The boss and his men were being beaten again. Because Danny didn't hear the boss's signal, he was locked in the cage as punishment. On this day, they went out to collect debts as usual, when a truck suddenly rushed out, crushing the boss's car. Then 3 killers got out of the truck, spraying bullets with machine guns. It turned out to be revenge from an enemy. After the killers left, Danny crawled out from under the boss's body. He had no idea where he could go. Before the electric execution, a patch of the inmate's hair would be shaved off. Then the prison guard would wet a sponge and place it on the inmate's head to ensure that during the execution, the electric current could make full contact with the skin, minimizing his pain as much as possible. After the electric shock was administered, a doctor still needed to confirm the inmate's death for the process to be considered complete. But the new prison guard deliberately did not wet the sponge. He just placed it directly on the inmate's head. He wanted to see what would happen. His colleague standing nearby didn't notice anything unusual either. Soon, the execution was about to start. Paul, who was in charge of supervision, noticed there were no water stains around the bucket. He had a bad feeling, but it was already too late to stop it. His colleague had already flipped the switch. A powerful electric current ran through the inmate's body. Because the sponge wasn't wet, the inmate felt extreme pain. Soon, smoke began to rise from his body, and the smell of burning flesh filled the air. Paul tried to stop it but was held back. Once an electric execution started, it couldn't be halted. They could only let everything unfold. The witnesses in the viewing room covered their noses and mouths, terrified and wanting to flee. Soon, the strong current set the inmate on fire. Paul knew well that cutting off the power would only make the inmate suffer more. Only death would bring relief. Even the victims' families couldn't bear the sight before them, and they all rushed out the door. The new guard also turned around in fear. When Paul saw this, he rushed over and forced him to watch the crime he had committed. After a long period of agony, the inmate finally stopped moving. The guards quickly cut off the power. Paul handed a fire extinguisher to the new guard, telling him to clean up the mess he had made. But afterward, the new guard claimed he didn't know the sponge needed to be wet. His colleague was so furious that he punched him. They had clearly rehearsed everything beforehand, and now he was saying he didn't know? It was obvious he had done it on purpose, but no one dared to hold him accountable. Because the new guard had connections, he had also had a grudge against that inmate before. At this moment, the warden walked over and yelled at everyone. Yet the only punishment the new guard received was being transferred to another post. Just then, a strong inmate Coffee said. He could fully feel the pain the death row inmate had endured. Paul didn't believe what Coffee said, not until that day. When Paul was escorting a new robber inmate, he was accidentally hit in the groin by the robber. He forced himself to stand up despite the pain, and used his gun to order the robber to stop. But the robber paid no attention. Fortunately, the deputy captain arrived in time. Paul tried to stay calm, telling everyone to go to the infirmary for a checkup. Once everyone had left, he collapsed to the ground in pain. It turned out he suffered from severe urethritis. When it flared up badly, he would break out in a cold sweat from the pain. Just then, Coffee called out to him. Paul stumbled over, but Coffee grabbed him suddenly. The light bulb in the cell burst instantly, and Coffee finished the treatment. He returned to his bed, exhausted, and spat out a sticky substance. When Paul went to the bathroom, he found his illness was really cured. Only then did he finally believe Coffee.